Have you ever found yourself sitting quietly, maybe with a cup of tea in your favorite chair, and just wondering, is this as good as it gets? You've worked hard your whole life, raised families, built careers, and now you're in this wonderful stage where time is finally your own. But sometimes, that quiet can feel a little too quiet. Sometimes, you might catch yourself thinking about the past, missing the way things used to be, or feeling like the world is moving just a little too fast now. If that feeling has ever crossed your mind, I want you to know you are not alone. And more importantly, I want you to know that the deep, lasting happiness you might be looking for isn't a thing of the past. It's not something reserved for the young. In fact, research shows that our senior years can be some of the most content and fulfilling years of our lives, if we know where to put our focus. Today, we're going to talk about 5 simple, science-backed ways to boost your happiness after 70. These aren't vague ideas or things that require a complete lifestyle overhaul. They are small, gentle shifts you can make starting today to bring more joy, connection, and purpose into your daily life. So, let's get started with the first one, which is probably the most powerful tool you have, and it's something you do every single day. The first way to boost your happiness is by changing the way you practice gratitude. Now, I know you've heard the word gratitude before. It's a popular concept. But most people, of any age, do it backward. They think gratitude is about looking at your life and saying, well, it could be worse, or listing off the big things like your house or your health. And while those are important, they don't always spark that immediate feeling of joy. Science tells us that for gratitude to truly boost our happiness levels, it needs to be specific and, believe it or not, a little bit surprising. Our brains are wired to get used to things. It's called hedonic adaptation. The new car feels amazing for a month, and then it's just a car. The same thing happens with the big things in life. So, to get a real happiness boost, we need to shake things up. Instead of thinking, I'm grateful for my family, try this tonight. Before you go to bed, think of one tiny, specific moment from your day that made you feel good, but that you might have otherwise overlooked. Maybe it was the way the morning sun hit your kitchen table. Maybe it was the sound of a neighbor's laughter from across the street. Maybe it was the first sip of your morning coffee, and it was just the perfect temperature. It sounds simple, but researchers have found that people over 70 who take just 2 minutes to note one specific, small pleasure each day report significantly higher levels of optimism and well-being. It trains your brain to scan the world for positives, not negatives. It's like a gentle workout for your happiness muscle. Now, that first step is all about shifting your internal focus. But happiness doesn't live entirely inside our heads. It lives in the space between us and others, which brings me to the second point, embracing the power of weak ties. When we think about social connections after 70, we often focus on the deep relationships, our spouse, our children, our lifelong best friends. And those are absolutely vital. But there's another layer of connection that is incredibly potent for boosting our mood, and it's often overlooked. Psychologists call them weak ties. These are the fleeting, everyday interactions you have with people you don't know well. Think about the barista who knows your order at the coffee shop. The friendly neighbor you wave to when you're getting the mail. The librarian who recommends a book. The cashier at the grocery store you chat with for a minute. These brief moments of social connection might seem insignificant, but they are actually powerful happiness boosters. A fascinating study found that people who make a conscious effort to have a brief, positive interaction with a weak tie, even just a smile and a genuine "How are you today?" feel significantly less lonely and more connected to their community. It reminds us that we are part of a larger world. It breaks the monotony of our day and provides a little spark of novelty. So, the second habit is to simply turn these fleeting moments into small connections. Make eye contact. Offer a genuine compliment. Ask the cashier how the day is going, and actually listen to the answer. You might think, oh, they're busy, I don't want to bother them. But more often than not, these small gestures brighten their day as much as they brighten yours. It's a ripple effect of kindness that costs you nothing but a moment of your time, and it feeds a deep human need for belonging. It takes you out of your own head and reminds you that you're part of a vibrant, living community. So, we've talked about looking inward with specific gratitude and looking outward with weak ties. Now, let's talk about a third habit that connects your mind to your body in a way that's fun and surprisingly effective. This one is about movement, but not the kind you might be thinking of. It's not about reps or miles or burning calories. It's about finding a physical activity that you actually look forward to, and doing it with the goal of feeling something called awe. Now, when you hear the word awe, you might think of standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon or watching a massive thunderstorm roll in. And that's exactly the feeling we're talking about, but you don't need to travel far to find it. You can find it on a walk around your neighborhood if you know how to look. The third habit is to seek out moments of awe through gentle movement. Awe is that feeling of being in the presence of something vast and mysterious, something that makes you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself. And for people over 70, researchers have discovered that experiencing awe regularly can lower inflammation in the body and boost your overall sense of well-being. So how do we do this? Instead of going for a walk with your headphones in, focused on getting your steps in, try going for what I call an awe walk. Leave the devices at home. As you step outside, imagine you're seeing your street for the very first time. Look up at the pattern of the clouds. Notice the way the wind moves through the leaves on a tree. Observe the tiny flowers pushing up through a crack in the sidewalk. Watch the light shift as the sun moves behind a house. This type of walking, where you're actively searching for beauty and vastness, changes your physiology. It releases what's called the love hormone, oxytocin, and it lowers your stress levels. It doesn't matter if you can only walk to the mailbox and back. What matters is the quality of your attention. You're giving your brain a break from its usual worries and reminding it that the world is still full of wonder. It's a gentle, powerful way to exercise both your body and your spirit at the same time. Now, as we start to feel more connected to the world around us through these awe walks, it naturally leads us to the next point, which is about giving back in a way that's manageable and meaningful. The fourth science-backed way to boost your happiness after 70 is to become a mentor, even if you don't call it that. There's a common misconception that after retirement, your wisdom and experience are no longer needed by the world. And let me tell you, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, studies on longevity and happiness consistently point to a concept called generativity. This is the desire to share what you've learned with the generations coming up behind you. It's about leaving a legacy, not of money or things, but of knowledge. The beautiful thing is, this doesn't mean you have to formally tutor someone or volunteer at a school, though you certainly can if you want to. Mentoring, in this sense, can be much more organic. Maybe it's teaching a young neighbor how to bake your famous apple pie. Maybe it's showing a new parent in your family the best way to calm a fussy baby, something you learned 30 years ago. Maybe it's just being the person at your place of worship or community center who remembers everyone's name and makes them feel welcome. When you share a skill or a piece of wisdom with someone younger, something remarkable happens in your brain. It reinforces your sense of purpose. It tells you, I matter. My life experience has value. And it creates a bond across generations that is incredibly fulfilling. Research shows that older adults who engage in this kind of knowledge sharing report feeling more energetic, more optimistic, and less isolated. You're not just passing on a recipe or a tip, you're passing on a piece of yourself, and that act of giving is often its own reward. It reminds you that your story isn't over, it's still being written, and you're helping others write theirs. So, we've looked inward with gratitude, we've reached outward to our community and to the beauty of nature, and we've looked backward at our own experiences to share them forward. Now, let's move on to the fifth and final habit, which is perhaps the most surprising one of all. This one asks you to do something that might feel uncomfortable at first, but the science behind it is rock solid. We're going to talk about the power of embracing a challenge. The power of embracing a challenge. But before you click away thinking I'm about to tell you to run a marathon or learn Mandarin Chinese, please hear me out. This isn't about pushing yourself to exhaustion or frustration. It's about finding what researchers call growth through discomfort. The fifth habit is to regularly do something that mildly challenges you, something that requires you to stretch just a little bit outside your comfort zone. As we get older, there's a natural tendency to want to minimize effort. We've earned our ease, right? We want things to be comfortable and predictable. And while comfort is wonderful, too much of it can actually lead to a plateau in our happiness levels. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon for decades. They found that human beings, at any age, have a fundamental need for competence. We need to feel like we're capable of learning and mastering new things. When we stop challenging ourselves, even in small ways, we can start to feel stagnant. The days blur together, and that feeling of vitality can slip away. Now, here's the key. The challenge has to be what scientists call optimally challenging. It shouldn't be so hard that it causes anxiety or frustration. But it also shouldn't be so easy that it's boring. It needs to be in that sweet spot where you have to focus, where you're fully present in the moment. This is actually a gateway to something called a flow state, which is one of the most enjoyable experiences a human being can have. So, what does this look like in real life? It could be trying a new puzzle that's just a little harder than the ones you usually do. It could be learning a new card game or a new variation of solitaire. It could be trying to cook a new recipe without following the instructions exactly, relying on your taste buds to guide you. It could be picking up a musical instrument you haven't touched in years, or even trying a simple video game with a grandchild. It could be planting a new type of flower in your garden that you've never grown before and figuring out how to care for it. The activity itself doesn't matter as much as the feeling it creates. That feeling of being slightly unsure, of having to concentrate, of finally figuring it out, that is a powerful source of happiness. It releases dopamine, the reward chemical in your brain. It builds what psychologists call self-efficacy, which is just a fancy term for the belief that you can handle what life throws at you. And there's another hidden benefit here. When you challenge yourself, you give your brain a break from its usual worries. If you're focused on getting that new recipe just right, or figuring out the next move in a challenging puzzle, you're not thinking about the news or the ache in your knee or the things you might be worried about. You're fully engaged in the present moment. And that, my friends, is a form of meditation in its own right. So, whether it's trying a new word in a crossword, taking a slightly different route on your walk, or finally learning how to use that feature on your smartphone that's been confusing you, give yourself permission to be a beginner again. It's okay to be bad at something new. In fact, it's more than okay. It's a sign that you're still growing, still learning, still fully engaged with this wild and wonderful life. So, let's take a gentle moment to bring this all together. We've talked about 5 very simple, very human ways to invite more happiness into your life after 70. We started with the power of noticing small, specific moments of gratitude. Then we remembered the joy of brief connections with the people we pass in our daily lives. We talked about moving through the world with awe, letting nature remind us of its beauty. We explored the deep fulfillment of sharing your hard-won wisdom with others. And finally, we gave ourselves permission to be challenged, to stretch, and to grow, even in the smallest of ways. If there's one thing I hope you take away from our time together today, it's this: your capacity for joy, for wonder, and for connection is not something that fades with age. It's something that deepens, if you tend to it. These aren't big, dramatic changes. They're gentle shifts in perspective, small seeds planted in the garden of your daily life. And with a little attention, they will bloom. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Which of these 5 habits spoke to you the most? Is there a small moment of gratitude or a tiny challenge you're thinking of trying tomorrow? Please, share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your stories inspire not just me, but everyone else in this wonderful community. And if you found this video helpful, if it brought a little warmth or a new idea into your day, please consider giving it a like. It helps more people our age find this content. And if you haven't already, click that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're building a little corner of the internet dedicated to living our best lives, at any age, and I'd be honored to have you along for the journey. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Be kind to yourself, look for the wonder, and I'll see you in the next video. Here's to you, and here's to living with an open heart. Take care.